Happy New Year. Hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome to 2023. My name is Jen and today I'm going to be bringing you my January TBR. We've got new year, new goals, new all sorts of things, and I'm ready to hit the ground running and kick 2023's ass. So today I'm going to bring you my very ambitious TBR. Before we get into a ton of other things, I will mention that the TBR wheel is currently still on hiatus. I had every intention of bringing it back this year and in January, but there are so many things that I actually want to read right now. And knowing how many books I actually read per month, it was causing a lot of unnecessary anxiety about playing the game and fitting all of the books in at the same time. If I were to do 5 spins and got none of these books on that list, I would have had to add all of this to that, and that's just not doable for me. I only read 5 to 7 books a month, depending on the month and what I'm reading, so it may come back later. I really enjoyed playing it. I loved the idea of someone else being kind of responsible for picking sort of the books that I'm reading. However, there's so much that works best for me when I don't actually have a list in mind, but for at least the first few months of the year, I have so many books that I would like to read that it just didn't make sense. But we are still playing TBR Takedown in full force in 2023. I have kind of revamped the rules. I have made a spreadsheet to track all the things. So let me just explain a little bit to you what TBR Takedown is. TBR Takedown is basically a sort of game that I am going to be playing in order to limit the books that I am bringing in the year of 2023. It's not a complete ban, and if I buy a book, it's not the end of the world, but it's something that will hopefully help me cut back on the amount of unnecessary books that are coming in, just because I was needed some retail therapy. The rules are like this. I must earn 20 points in order to earn a new book. All physical books count towards me taking in a book unearned. Doesn't matter where I got it. If it was a gift, if it was from Pango, if I got it for free in other, it's not about the money or the way it was purchased. It's about what's coming in. So any book will count towards an unearned book. The only exception I'm having is it'll still get added to the TBR, but it's not going to count as deducting points, which we will talk about in a second. There are 2 books that are not going to count towards that, and those are the 2 pre-orders I currently have out and have had out for a very long time. The first one is Chain of Thorns that comes out at the end of January, which I will read almost instantly. And the other one is, I can't remember which book it is, but it's by Milivane. It's been pushed twice and is currently scheduled for July, I believe. So that doesn't count. Anything else I buy counts. But Barnes & Noble will likely have a pre-order sale again. Things will happen, whatever. Pre-orders specifically will not count until I have them in my possession. So if I pre-order a book in January for December, it doesn't count until December. So it does not count until I have my hands on it. So here's how points are earned. Essentially, I have to read 10 books in order to earn a book. Each book that I read is worth 2 points. But if the book is a final book in the series, which is a goal of mine, is to complete series, I get a bonus 2 points. If I unhaul an unread book, I get 2 points. If I unhaul a book that I've read, it does not count. This is strictly TBR books that I have not actually completed. An unearned book, so a pre-order or a book that I just buy at the store, I went into Target and came out with some books. An unearned book is a negative 3 points. So it's actually more detrimental to me to buy something unearned, which is not the vocabulary I want to use for this, but it's what I'm going to use. We lose 3 points. So essentially you wipe out 1.5 of the books that you've already read. And then once I earn a book, I lose 20 points, which basically just takes that out of whatever total that I have. So that's how I'm going to regulate my TBR in 2023. I'm going to be as strict as I can without completely putting myself in a weird situation that just makes me unhappy. So, but I think I am very much for the idea of reading what's on my shelf, not bringing in unnecessarily. And so hopefully we can accomplish that. All right, on to the readathons for January. I'm going to be participating in 1 and maybe 2. The first one is Jumpstart January, hosted by Mel from Eleanor Reads. I'll link her announcement video down below. Basically, you pick your TBR based on the goals that you set for yourself this year. And I will link my 2023 goals video where you link things. That's a lot of what this TBR is revolved around. Not necessarily, it's not necessarily because of that readathon, but that readathon actually was like, this was the plan kind of all along. And the readathon is just a place to kind of make it fun. And that it runs from January 1st, today, to January 31st. And I'm super excited to be participating in that. And then there is a weekend readathon. The Final Book Support Group will be running the 7th and 8th of January. It's a 48-hour round. I'm not the biggest fan of 48-hour readathons. It's just, depending on what's going on, that's just not enough time for me to actually finish anything. I think they're fun. If I'm home that weekend, it'll be great. But for me, a 48-hour readathon isn't enough to, especially on the weekends, enough to finish anything. But I love this readathon and this group, so I'm going to try to participate. I'll link Steph's video down below if you would like to participate. I definitely suggest it if you like those. It's just, if I'm not home on Saturday, then I lose a whole day. Those are the readathons that I am participating in. Let's then get to the books. The first set of books we have are the Playbook series by Alexa Mark. I'm actually going to try to read the entire series. If you have not checked out my goals video, one of my goals for the year was to read more from authors of color. And this fit perfectly in with something else that I want to do that will be coming, hopefully, maybe later. These are sports romances that have football. I've actually never read a football sports romance. I've read a lot of hockey. But I don't think I've read any football. So I'm really excited to check out this series. The first book is Intercepted. This is about Marley, and Marley is dating this hotshot NFL player until she finds out that he has been cheating on her, and they break up. And when that happens, she is sworn off athletes. She's like, I don't need them. But there is a new quarterback named Gavin who has his eye on her and has to kind of convince her that he is nothing like her ex. So that's the first one. I'm so excited about this, and I think this is the perfect time of year to read some football romance. Next, if I participate in the Final Book Support Group during the actual weekend, this is what I will be reading that weekend. If not, I will just read it some other time, and that is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Oh, my relationship with this author. This is Hannah and Fox's book. Fox and Hannah became like best friends after it happened one summer, and Hannah is back in town and she's crashing with Fox, but Fox is like, I'm not ruining this. But Hannah has a crush on this guy, and Fox is going to help her kind of woo him. And at the same time, they're kind of falling for each other kind of in a mutual way, versus Fox is kind of probably pining. This is my third Tessa Bailey, and if this does not work, we are writing Tessa Bailey off as an author who is not for me. But I think we've got a friends to lover situation here. We have some like forced proximity. We've got that whole like, I'm gonna help you be more desirable to someone else, but in reality I'm in love with you type thing. Love that. If I remember correctly, Hannah has like this music background going on, and I think this one may be my favorite of all of the books from Tessa Bailey that I've read, and I'm hoping that I really enjoy this because I really want to. And with this, and if I finish the entire playbook series, I will finish a series. So that's 2 down just in the month of January. Oh, so these will be there's two goals for this one. This is going to be reading more by BIPOC authors. Also, if I get all the way to Snapped, I will finish a series, and this one will be to complete a series and to read the books that are on my shelf. Next, also hosted by Steph from Steph Loves, we have the Literature Book Club pick for January, and that's going to be Priest by Sierra Simone. I think the goal that I'm going to be using this to achieve is to learn my romance taste. This is taboo, and it involves a priest, and that's all I really know, and that's all I kind of want to go into this knowing. I have enjoyed Sierra Simone in the past, though I'm not entirely sure I am going to enjoy this, but the goal of learning my romance taste is to try some things that maybe don't seem like they're my kind of thing, just to see that maybe they are. Maybe I'm really into priest romances. Who knows? But we're gonna try this one out. I'm like overly ambitious this month. Is it because it's a new year? Probably. But the next 2 books I'm going to attempt to read are Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. These are the first 2 books in the, what is this actually called? The Last Hours trilogy. Book 3 comes out at the very end of January. And I am trash for Shadowhunters. Absolute trash, and I have no shame. I don't care. I will read everything until they're out. The series that comes after this, I've been anticipating for years. So, very hyped about this. Thankfully, I recall most of like some of the cliffhanger-y stuff at the end of book 2. So like if I don't get to these, it's not the end of the world. But again, because I am trash, I enjoy coming back to this world whenever I can. And I feel like it's been a long time. I think because book 3 was supposed to come out at the end of earlier this year maybe, or the end of 21. I can't remember. So it's been a hot minute since there's even been a Shadowhunter book. So I'm really desperate to get back to this world. It's just a series of historical fantasies that they're the sequels. It's an Edwardian, it takes place in Edwardian London, I think, and is sort of the sequel series to the Infernal Devices, which is the second series. I could talk about Shadowhunters all the time. Next, we have another reread, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. I'm going to be rereading this as part of, there's a read-along happening hosted by, hold on, I don't remember who they are. This read-along is being hosted by Jess from Honest Fiction, Hannah from Hannah Blackwell, Isa from Fun Fantasy Books, and Tori from A Novel Life. I think I got all of that. I hope I got all of that correct. I had to do a little bit of research. I will link all of the announcement stuff that I can find below. But basically this read-along is going to be reading the books in the From Blood and Ash world. This includes both the core series and the prequel series, and is basically reading one a month from January to the new book that's coming out in July. One of my goals for the year was going to be to catch up on this series and also reread it. So this is the perfect excuse to do that. From Blood and Ash follows, if you don't already know, From Blood and Ash follows Poppy, who is the maiden in this society, who has to be kept pure for this ceremony that's going to basically save the people. This means she cannot be seen or touched or maybe even interacted with by anyone outside of like a very small circle, and she has to remain worthy of the gods for this ceremony. And when she's assigned a new kind of bodyguard in Hawk, it kind of becomes a little hard to stay worthy, and their attraction put all of the things that Poppy is supposed to be for the society in jeopardy. Read the first 3 books in the core series and the first book in the prequel series, but then fell behind. And I have, I think, most of these on audio now because these are massive. I do enjoy this series. It's a good time. But I think one of the things, and I blame this on myself rather than the writing, is that I sometimes forget exactly what the world building is here. Like why, what's going on, and the different like groups. So rereading was a thing that I was planning on doing anyway, so I'm excited to read along with these lovely co-hosts for the read-along. Again, if you have seen my goals video, one of my other goals this year is to read more from KU, basically to make my subscription worth it. So I'm gonna pick something from KU. This is just gonna be kind of an impulse in the moment kind of read, and we'll see how that goes. And lastly, I have The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I know very few things about this book. I know that it's grimdark, and I know that the Catch Up Book Club is reading this series in 2023 and a little bit into 2024. And I will link Becca's announcement. Becca from Becca and the Books is the main host here. I will link her announcement video down below. Again, I'm trying to read more adult fantasy this year, and what better excuse than to participate in a read-along to get me motivated to get through this. But honestly, I'm going to this book pretty blind, and I'm kind of excited. This is really ambitious. This is everything. There are 11 books on this list, which comes out to 4,404 pages outside of the Kindle Unlimited pick that I have yet to pick. But it's a nice, pretty number, so like I feel like that just means it's going to be doable, right? Maybe. This also runs the gambit in terms of subgenres. We've got 5 contemporary romances, 1 erotic romance, a fantasy romance, a grimdark fantasy. So like one of the again, this is all about the goals. I wanted to diversify the subgenres that I am reading, because I read so much contemporary romance last year, and again, this is a contemporary romance dominated list, but like there's still a bunch of other stuff on here, so like I don't feel as bad. And so probably for my KU pick, I will pick something fantasy romance, something darker, something that I would qualify as something other than contemporary romance, so that we can diversify this a little bit more. 2023 is all about balancing the subgenres. If I complete this entire TBR, I will have earned 18 points for TBR takedown, and will have taken 7 books off my TBR. Again, nothing counts if I have already read it. So rereads do not count towards points in any month, at any time. This is about reading what is on my shelf. So you take the 7 books off, and then I get extra points for completing 2 series. So I think for month number 1, that's really, really good, because I'm almost at a new book. That's everything for today. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you. I adore you. Please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.